Welcome to today's community screening and conversation that TMA is hosting with the reporters and producers from three of the amazing news stations across the country that were involved in the investigative documentary Diagnosis Denied. I'm Paula Eichenbrenner, TMA's executive director, and I'm really excited to welcome you all to this program, one of the most exciting gatherings that we are hosting during this May, Myositis Awareness Month. So today we're going to look at a little bit of background about IBM and veterans with IBM, and then have some reflections from the reporters, producers, veterans, care partners, and advocates who were interviewed by news stations across the country. We're so excited to have several of the reporting and producing teams here with us, and I look forward to introducing you to each of them and to the veterans that they interviewed. We'll hear a little bit about next steps, screen the documentary, and then wrap up for the day. So thank you again for joining us. Here we have just a couple of notes. If you do have a question for any of our speakers, please put that into the chat box or raise your hand, and you'll see the little graphic there to do that. We are recording, and this will be available on TMA's YouTube channel. So as I said, May is Myositis Awareness Month, and we do offer at myositis.org a full suite of awareness building tools just for you. One thing that you might be particularly interested in after today's call is our media pitch guide, where we share some templates and resources for you to reach out to your local radio, news, or print journalists to let them know about your story. I think we'll all leave today feeling so inspired about what journalism can do as far as bringing light to human stories and driving change. So, just to cover a little bit of background about IBM, or inclusion body myositis, we do have a large audience today, and not everyone may be familiar. So, IBM is one of several types of myositis that we serve here at the Myositis Association. It is both an inflammatory and degenerative muscle disease. And as an autoimmune disease, the clinicians and researchers call it an acquired disease. So there's no definitive evidence out there about what causes IBM, but it is known that factors related to the immune system or immune dysregulation, the environment, genetics, and aging may all play a part. So while there are people living with IBM who are not veterans, what we are going to talk about today is those veterans who do live with IBM, and the possibility that the environmental exposures that they encountered during their active duty military service may have contributed to or directly caused their IBM. We have a lot more information on our website for those who may be new to the community. And I'll put my email into the chat while Rachel shares a little bit more background about veterans with IBM in case you have any questions. Rachel, over to you.
Yes, thank you so much. Well, TMA established TMA Military Veterans with Myositis Affinity Group in 2022. Actually, in 21, I had all of 3 veterans on the list for this group. And so we are so pleased how much it's grown. Starting in 2023, this group has been led by Jim Cressman. And then we added Augie DeAugustinis, Larry Leisher, and Jim Sudzik. We are here today as a result of this community that these gentlemen have facilitated and nurtured and just driven this advocacy to new heights. Because Jim, Augie, Larry, Suds, and all of you never gave up, we have seen more and more momentum in the quest for VA to designate IBM as a presumptive service-connected disease, a designation that would give veterans access to significant health-related benefits. In 2024, Hill and Ponton documentary dropped. We are so grateful to Ursula McCabe and Carrie Baker for all of their efforts representing veterans with myositis, and to Jim Cressman for having the idea to do a documentary. In 2024, also, the petition to help disabled veterans get the VA benefits they deserve was initiated by Alicia Lowther and currently has almost 1,200 signatures. In 2025, last year, the VA commissioned a study from the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine about 8 serious neurological or neuromuscular diseases, including IBM, to see whether they may be linked to military environmental exposures. NASM listening sessions have included testimony from veterans with IBM, many on this call. And then that leads us to May 11th, 2026. Diagnosis Denied documentary dropped online with a national partnership stretching across 6 news stations. So we are just so incredibly glad and excited, and all of the positive words that we could possibly say. Thank you, thank you, thank you to all of you that made this possible.
Thank you, Rachel. And again, thank you to all of the outstanding reporters and producers who were involved in this effort. And this has been a months-long endeavor with an immense amount of national collaboration across so many markets. We're so grateful to have 5 reporters and producers joining us today. I definitely want to thank the entire team that was involved. So while they couldn't join us for today's screening and conversation, special shout out to Chris Vanderveen, Kyle Iboshi, and the San Diego colleagues who recently shared Tierney's story. These Emmy Award winning, Emmy, Murdoch, DuPont, they've won everything. They're that good. And they chose to focus on inclusion body myositis. They went into the homes of veterans living with IBM and conducted in-home interviews, bringing to life the true challenges that accompany a myositis diagnosis. I think it's safe to say they've done more for Myositis Awareness Month than all the rest of us put together. We're so grateful. Every time I look at the trackers on the documentary link on YouTube, it's up by another 500 or 600 views. So there's definitely still a lot of momentum going. The Tampa Bay team dropped another follow-up story today. The Atlanta team was interviewed live yesterday on Memorial Day. And how fitting is it that we're here for today's community screening and conversation on the day after Memorial Day and the day before IBM Diagnosis Day. So again, we are truly honored and truly grateful to everyone involved in this Herculean effort. We are going to hear over the next 10 minutes or so from each of the teams that was able to join us today and the veterans that they interviewed. And we're going to start with Heather Crawford and First Coast News in Jacksonville, Florida. Heather is a 10-time Emmy Award-winning journalist who has anchored the evening newscasts at First Coast News in Jacksonville for more than a decade. She is also an investigative reporter passionate about shining the spotlight on issues that often get overlooked. Heather and her husband have 2 teenagers, and she is the founder of Sisters in Christ International. So I'm going to take down these slides, and we're going to play back a brief video clip of Heather and Larry, and then we'll hear from Heather and Larry.
Have you ever heard of inclusion body myositis? It's known as IBM. I had never heard of it until we started hearing from veterans diagnosed with this rare progressive muscle disease. It is debilitating. It's taking away their ability to walk. And the veterans that we've talked to across the country believe that IBM is connected to their time serving our country.
We need the VA to see exactly what this disease is and what it's done to the veterans.
So why isn't the VA recognizing this as a presumptive condition? In a lot of cases, these veterans are having their requests for disability benefits denied.
I didn't want anybody else to have to go through what it took me 17 and a half years to have my appeals reversed. And that's not right. It's just not right.
We're talking to lawmakers, we're talking to veterans, and we'll share their push for change and what lawmakers are promising to do. It's a special I've been working on with my colleagues all across the country, streaming on our TV app May 11th.
Thank you so much. That was just a powerful clip just in 60 seconds to get the gist of it across. Heather, what would you like to share with our audience today about your experience getting to know Larry and his beautiful wife, Joanne, also?
Well, first, I just want to say to Larry, to his family, to all of the veterans who invited us into your homes, we're so grateful. This is why I think it's fair to say for all the journalists, we are journalists, right? We are here to help our communities, to shine a spotlight on issues that are going seemingly ignored. And so it was such a pleasure to get to go and visit with Larry and Joanne when Jennifer Titus in Tampa called me and was like, "Hey, I'm working on this story. Can you do the Jacksonville part? There's a veteran there named Larry." I said, "Absolutely. What is IBM?" I'm thinking it's a computer. I have no idea what IBM is. And I started digging into it. And this is the first time, I've been a journalist for over 2 decades, that I've worked on a project like this with colleagues all across the country. And Libby and Jen and Rebecca and Ciara and the whole team we just gelled, and it was truly a collaborative effort, and each one of us kind of took on a different angle and put it together in this documentary. And so thank you to all my colleagues, and thank you to Larry and to all the veterans. Larry has fought so hard, not just for our country, but for every veteran diagnosed with myositis. And so, just as an American citizen, to see Larry and the sacrifice he's made and what he's doing to help veterans, it just gives me goosebumps to just of gratitude. So thank you for your service, Larry, and all of you veterans.
Here I am. I'm in Jacksonville. Actually, I'm in Fleming Island, Florida. Uh, it's been a great trip, a hard push. Uh, Heather has done phenomenal with all the other ones that have been out there going over us, trying to get as much information as they can. Uh, and our goal from the start, obviously, was to get myositis changed to be a presumptive disease and to get benefits for those that are suffering uh, sooner rather than later. Fortunately, most of us that are in our group have received our benefits, and it's not time to give up. Now it's time to continue on and help those that are really struggling to get this denial reversed. And that's exactly what we're doing. And thanks to Heather and the rest of the reporters out there, we just thank you so much for everything that you've done. I don't know that we would have been able to get this far on our own. It's been a struggle, and we do truly appreciate it.
And I just want to point out, when I was interviewing Larry and his wife said he fought for so many years, denial, 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 to finally get it overturned. And along the way, he got a lot of knowledge about what it takes to get an appeal reversed, what is out there once you have these benefits. And he could have easily just gotten it approved and been done with it. And this sweet man has fought so hard for all the veterans after him. And that's what really stood out to me. His wife said, if you saw how hard he works now, today, now that he has his benefits, to help everyone who comes behind him, she said, you'd be blown away. I said, honey, it's time to rest. You got your appeal reversed. Not Larry. He is so committed to serving others, and truly has a servant's heart.
Well, I concur with that, Heather, and I'll add from TMA's perspective, Larry and his wife are regular donors to TMA's scholarship fund, helping to make it possible for more military veterans living with myositis to attend our patient conference and learn from others. And so I see them just giving back every way that they can, like the other leaders of our military veterans with myositis affinity group. I mean, really, truly inspirational men, one and all. Larry, tell us just a little bit about what the experience was like to bring a reporter into your home. I mean, did you have to do a little extra cleaning that day? Were you nervous?
Uh, no, I didn't have to. Uh, we've been fortunate enough to have a cleaning service every 2 weeks, and my wife is very neat and tidy as well. So we didn't really have to go into a lot. I think the biggest thing was trying to keep our dog off of Heather's lap because she loves everybody, and it was just nice to have Heather here. I mean, it was a feeling that somebody else has heard and somebody else cares enough to help us, and we needed that desperately. And thanks again to Heather, the reporters. TMA has done a great job for us. They've helped us. They put it out on the market every time they get a chance. Rachel, Paula, we thank you as well. It's not something that we could do alone. We had to have everybody in, and you guys really filled the bill.
And one thing that was interesting from a journalistic perspective, when I went to Larry's home, I was able to see the equipment that he has now that the appeal has been overturned and he has the status, the disability benefits from the VA. I was able to see like how there's this device, a tracking device on his ceiling that can lift him up and help him go to the restroom and to the shower and see things like that, the different wheelchairs that he has, and the different tools that makes his life a bit easier, thanks to the VA benefits. So that was pretty eye-opening for me.
And for your viewership too, I think, Heather, that, the in-home interviews really made a difference in that regard as far as bringing it to life for everyone watching online and at home. Well, thank you so much, Heather Crawford, First Coast News. Really appreciate you being with us today. And of course, Larry. Heather, I believe, will be excusing herself pretty soon to anchor the 5 p.m. news broadcast. But if anyone in the audience has a question for her, you can put it in the chat. I'm going to bring the slides back up and introduce the next reporter and producer. So next we have with us from Atlanta, Georgia, Rebecca Lindstrom and Ciara Frisbie. Rebecca has spent more than 3 decades trying to educate communities on complicated issues that have gone unaddressed or unnoticed, hoping to energize and empower change. She is nationally recognized for her reporting, much of which has been focused on our child welfare system, but it is the trust placed in her by those sharing their stories that she counts as the highest honor and blessing. Ciara is the producer for Rebecca and team at 11 Alive, and she is a national and regional award-winning journalist based in Atlanta. She currently serves as the senior investigative producer at 11 Alive WXIA, where she has worked since 2018. She is also the proud daughter of veteran Fred W. Frisbie Jr., who served 20 years in the Army. So at this point, we're going to play a very brief clip of Rebecca introducing the concept of presumptive status and the diagnosis denied documentary. And then we'll have some reflections from Rebecca, Ciara, and Augie DeAugustinis, who they interviewed.
There's an explosion. A soldier is injured. It is pretty easy to say those burns and broken bones are service connected. But what do you do when the injury appears decades later and didn't come from a direct trauma, but instead forced exposure to something that is toxic? That's what some researchers believe is triggering at much higher rates cases of IBM in veterans. That stands for inclusion body myositis. Some describe it as Lou Gehrig's disease, or ALS in slow motion. In fact, some researchers believe the same toxic exposures can trigger both diseases.
A lot of exposures to degreasers and jet fuel.
We need the VA to see what this disease is and what it's done to the veterans.
Former Navy pilot Augie DeAugustinis says he has seen that theory play out in real life. A fellow crewmate who also served 2 tours in Iceland was later diagnosed with ALS while he was diagnosed with IBM. Same exposures, different impacts. And the Veterans Administration treats those diseases very differently as well. While ALS is automatically presumed service-connected, IBM is not.
Come to grips with it, it's not easy.
They need the benefits, not just the compensation, but the other benefits like the medical care, the car adaptations, the housing adaptations, and they're getting buried in paperwork.
Veterans have to fight for disability benefits case by case. They say that needs to change. The VA has commissioned a study, but that won't be done until next summer, and these vets say they need help now. I hope you'll take the time to watch Diagnosis Denied. Be sure to download our app so that you can stream free starting May 11th.
Thank you so much. Rebecca, Augie, Ciara, another really powerful clip. Obviously an expert communicator. Rebecca, I see why they picked you for all of those awards, being able to distill complex topics like that. So why don't we go ahead and bring you guys up on the spotlight here and tell us a little bit more about how you connected with Augie and made this whole national collaboration possible.
Well, you'll be hearing from Jennifer next. And she's really the glue that kind of brought all of this together. And so, a lot of the gratitude and everything just goes to her, to one, acknowledging, like researching and finding this story, and then pulling the rest of us into it, because you can do one story, which might have some impact in your local community, but when you're able to show that this is a national issue and needs a national answer, then I think you can have a far greater impact. And so want to thank all of the vets who are on this call for their service. And then just want to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to us, to watch this program. And then I hope I'm thanking you in advance for taking those next steps that you guys are going to discuss later, because there is a fine line between journalism and advocacy. And for us, it's finding that balance of raising awareness about an issue, but not necessarily saying what the solution is to that issue or advocating for something in particular, letting other people who are more familiar with it have that voice and that opportunity to give their own opinion about what it is. So now it's really going to be up to the community to continue to drive this. We can do the updates, we can continue to amplify what happens moving forward, but we can't be the lobbyists, the advocates, so to speak. So we're really reliant upon the people who are passionate about this issue, even newbies to the issue like we were when we started this project, to go ahead and continue pushing and making sure that all of our lawmakers and that Secretary Collins are aware of this, and that you guys feel it is important for action to be taken. When we got the opportunity to meet Augie, I mean, what a treat. Truly, truly enjoyed our time hanging out in the living room and talking with him. And I'll, give him a few moments to share his thoughts as well. But really just being vulnerable. I mean, one of the hardest things when we're trying to do a story is we'll make phone calls and we'll ask people, even people who reach out to us and say, hey, we need you to do a story on this. And then we'll call them and we'll be like, okay, well, great. Can we set up a time to come talk on camera? And they'll be like, no, wait a minute. We just want you to do a story, but we don't want to be on camera. We don't want to be vulnerable with the information that it's going to take to really do this story. So I think as you watch Diagnosis Denied, you will truly walk away with that belief that this would not have been as powerful had it not been for these vets being so willing to be vulnerable with their illness, what it has meant for their families, and the things that they need in order to function as this disease progresses. So being willing to just sit down and talk with us is a huge, huge thank you. And I think that it is that commitment that we are seeing from these vets who are really pushing this issue forward, as you heard Heather talking about, that makes a difference in how this is being received. And I'm doing all the talking because Ciara told me she didn't want to say a word. So I'm not just yapping over her.
No, I think I couldn't have said it better myself, Rebecca. Thank you.
So Augie, what was it like to have a reporter in your living room?
Well, I tell you what, I can understand now why you've won so many awards. Rebecca came in that day and put me so at ease. It was like talking to an old friend who we hadn't seen one another for a number of years. And I just needed to catch up on what happened. How did I end up in a wheelchair? And, before I knew it, it was over 2 hours had just flown by. And it was just nonstop dialogue. And it was just a very painless experience. I was expecting a lot worse, but it came across as a very enjoyable experience. But the real work was done after the videos came out. First, the local video in Atlanta on 11 Alive, and then when the Diagnosis Denied came out, the real proof in the value of the work was that I received two phone calls from the Veterans Administration, from the one from the Undersecretary's office that wanted to know if they could be of any assistance. So clearly, um, the videos have hit their target, and now it is. You are exactly right. There's a fine line between, journalism and advocacy, and now the rest is up to us to carry the ball across the finish line and see that we're successful.
I mean, we will keep asking the questions of the people in power who can make these decisions. We'll continue following those steps so that we're not letting this conversation fade out. But yeah, it's all just, letting us know when those next steps have happened. And Augie's just been a great communicator. His son, Rich, great communicator with letting us know what's happening. And the interview, I'm sure Augie can tell you, was kind of one part. And then it was having to deal with all of my questions afterward again and again, and having to learn about the disability process and just let's just say there were questions in his living room, and then there were probably 20 emails after with even more questions that he and the other veterans were so patient to answer for us. And we are just really grateful. Thank you, guys.
You were a quick learner, both of you.
And I do want to put Ciara on the spot to do a little bit of talking. If you could please help us understand, the role of a producer in this type of investigative news series, and just a little bit of, what your behind the scenes perspective on this effort was.
Sure. So like you just said, it's behind the scenes. It's a lot of research. It's a lot of talking to the veterans like Augie. And that was pretty much my role. I mean, supporting Rebecca, supporting the other journalists on this project as much as I could.
Her and Libby also created the web article that, if you were to go and see that full article with, the profiles of the different veterans and getting a lot of the interviews set up with different veterans, responding to the emails. So she's being very modest. Libby can talk about her work as well when she's up next. But when you look at that digital article, those are the two behind really bringing that together and making that, which, we hear all the time, people who are video people and people who are text people. There are people who will read that article, but will never watch the videos, and vice versa. So those are both really, really powerful tools. And, the social media videos, there are people as well who that's all they'll see, are like the videos you've been playing before each of our Q&A segments. So having all of those come together and the different people that help put that together. In the case of mine, thankfully, Ciara was able to edit that for me, because I'm not so sure I would have been able to do that. So yay, Ciara. So yeah, she's being modest, but there's a lot of responsibilities that hats that they wear.
Thank you so much. We do have a question in the chat about the NASEM study and how the VA has commissioned that. And Rebecca, you touched on that very briefly in the clip that we just watched. So I'll expand it. Rich has shared a link in the chat to the NASEM site as well. So they're looking at 8 diseases that are neuromuscular or neurodegenerative, and IBM is one of the 8. And this was commissioned by the Veterans Affairs Agency in 2025. And so it's an extended process, as many things are when they are deliberative and science-based. And we're certainly supportive of the science, right? And appreciate the due diligence that's being taken. At the same time, we want to keep all eyes on this community of veterans with IBM and, hold those in power accountable for moving as swiftly as is possible. So that's what I would say. But how would you like to fill in the blanks on that question, Rebecca and Augie?
Augie, you might have more context on this. I'll just start by saying, my understanding of it is that they're taking a look. They're not doing new research per se. They're taking a look at what exists out there in the scientific community, what we do know, and then from there trying to analyze, is there enough connection that we know of right now, or what would we need to study to know to be able to make that connection? And I think that report, while, as we've said, is in theory due July of next year, they are listening to several vets. There were 5 or 6, Augie, that spoke at the NASEM meeting that just happened last week?
5 total, 4 the first day and 1 the second day.
So they are actually listening to the vets themselves as they share their experiences with IBM and why they believe that the disease is service connected, and then that is also part of their record and their analysis. And that's kind of the study that could say, yes, we do believe that there is enough here already to make this service connected, or, to evaluate it when someone files an application and they can say they've had this, and this exposure. So I think, that's where their testimony is going to be really vital in that decision. Of course, what I think all of us would hope is that they take that, they make it presumptive, and then from there, they come up with plans for additional research. Like, what else do we need to know about this? So that hopefully we can come up with treatments and cures and the things that move this ball forward beyond the disability benefits.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and quite honestly, one of the study was initially commissioned to focus on veterans that were served in the Gulf War in 1990s or sooner, and but all the speakers were from pre-Gulf War days, and one of the things that we were able to point out is that the nature of IBM is such that number one, it takes sometimes decades for it from exposure to manifest itself, and it's generally symptoms don't start showing up until you get into your 60s. So that's going to put those Gulf War people, their day will come. But fortunately, the study committee heard from us, heard what our experiences were, and I think they were able to connect the dots on that this is what these other veterans might have in store for them going forward.
And all of the testimony was so consistent that, again, if they're looking for patterns, with the 5 people that spoke, the patterns were there. So I think everyone is very hopeful for the outcome of that report. But if we already know this and we already have the data, I think the thought is, why do we need to wait until July?
Right.
Absolutely.
Yep, exactly. Thank you, gals. You did a wonderful job.
Thank you, Rebecca and Ciara from 11 Alive in Atlanta, Georgia. Big virtual round of applause. Everybody, if you want to hit your emoji react button. And thanks again to Heather from First Coast News. We're going to turn it over back to Florida, I guess I should say. But as Rebecca said, one of the reporter who began this work with the idea of investigating veterans with inclusion body myositis is with us today. So here we go. We're so honored to welcome Jennifer Titus and Libby Hendren from 10 Tampa Bay News. Jennifer Titus is an Emmy award-winning investigative journalist for the investigative team at 10 Tampa Bay, the CBS affiliate in Tampa, Florida. Jennifer's stories have had a major impact both locally, statewide, and nationwide. Her work has been recognized by the Suncoast Emmy Chapter, Florida Broadcasters Association, the Green Eye Shade, Associated Press, and the Society of Professional Journalists. While Jennifer loves being a journalist, her favorite role is being a mom to 2 young boys. And Jennifer is joined today by Libby Hendren, producer, who joined the investigative unit at 10 Tampa Bay in 2022. Libby and Jen have worked on a variety of different investigations together, from improperly installed guardrails to trucking companies trying to evade accountability. They're both really excited about how Diagnosis Denied turned out. It was initially just going to be something that they worked on together in Tampa, and then they realized that there's strength in numbers and expanded the investigative news series nationally and produced the documentary. So we are delighted to welcome both of them to today's TMA community screening and conversation, as well as Alicia Lothar and Dennis McKinney, who they interviewed. And we're going to play back a brief clip that actually illustrates the power and impact of this documentary a little bit differently. And then we'll hear from the reporting team and the movie stars they interviewed.
14 years. That's how long one veteran says he had to wait for disability benefits from the VA. Hey guys, investigative reporter Jennifer Titus. It's emails like these that keep coming in over the past couple of days after we launched our investigative documentary, Diagnosis Denied. Diagnosis Denied took a look at a rare disease called inclusion body myositis, or IBM, that a lot of veterans are being diagnosed with, and studies show that they're being diagnosed at a higher rate than the general population. That is why they are fighting for the VA to recognize this as a presumptive disease so they can get the disability benefits right away that they believe they earned. We have lawmakers that have sent letters to the VA Secretary, Doug Collins, and now we wait to see what Secretary Collins will do. We have also put in a request to sit down and interview Secretary Collins, and we are waiting to see if that will be granted. Until then, keep sending us our emails, keep watching, and please keep sharing our latest investigative documentary, Diagnosis Denied.
Wow. I mean, Jennifer, those are some big boxes in that email from your viewer.
Yeah, so that came in. That was just that sharing a story about the amount of medical documents he had in his garage, I believe, the amount of documents that he had sent to the VA to fight a claim. So we do know that a lot of people saw this documentary. We know they saw it across the country. So that was great. The response, the veterans that emailed us. We had another veteran from San Diego, I think, that reached out to us, and we were able to connect them with our station out there to continue sharing the story of veterans.
That story just dropped last week, and in fact, that veteran is with us today, so we'll call on him shortly to reflect on that experience too. But it's just amazing to see. Like, I think sometimes in journalism you say the story has legs, right? But this has like tentacles, and I mean, as many legs as an octopus for sure. It just keeps building. So Alicia, what did you think when you first heard about this effort?
Well, it was so exciting. And like Augie said about Rebecca, having Jennifer in the house was just like talking to one of my best friends, just having a conversation with someone. And we are just so thankful and appreciative, the Veterans with Myositis group. We've written so many letters. I know for 3 years I've been writing letters. We all have been writing letters, and you have done more. All of you with your reporting have done more for the cause of these veterans not having to go through this, hopefully in the future, and make IBM presumptive service connected. And just so very thankful, and wonderful reporting. Just the final result was beyond my wildest imagination. Excellent. Thank you.
And I guess we didn't even know where this story was going to go when we started.
I was your first.
Yeah, this topic. Alicia and Dennis, I reached out to the law firm that Carrie and Ursula work at. I had seen another article, and I just was like, oh, is there anything that I should look into? And they reached out and said, you should really look into IBM. I said, that's fine, but I'm gonna need some local veterans. I need to have some sort of connection here to our viewers in the Tampa Bay area. They said, no problem. So they connected with me, Alicia and Dennis, who said they will talk. And then she included Larry on that email as well, being like, he's from Florida, but he's in the Jacksonville area. And they're like, and then you also really need to interview this Jim Cressman and Augie in Atlanta. They will talk to you, and they're so passionate about this. So I got a trip to Colorado out of this. So I was able to fly out to Colorado and email Jim Cressman. And that's what I got, called Heather. And I was like, hey, I got this veteran in Jacksonville. Do you think you could interview him? And then I called Ciara and Rebecca and Augie. Will you interview Augie? And so I think at that point, we didn't really know what we had or where we were going with this. Maybe we all thought they were individual stories. And so when we got back, I think by that time, the word had gotten out that we were working on this project. And so we had the Rathburns reach out to us. And we were able to get them connected with Kyle because we the company Tegna, we have a station out there. So once we realized we had all of these interviews, and we had Carrie was flying down to interview with us as well. Rebecca came to us and said, hey, I think we have something bigger than just individual stories. What if we tried to make this a bigger documentary? So it truly was a team effort. We started with the interviews, but it truly was a team effort to get it all together and and coming up with that and being able to get reporters to be just as invested as the other reporter, because you want somebody that's going to take the time and listen to these stories and listen to the research. And we had just the absolute perfect team to do that. And so when I interviewed Jim and we got back and he had told us, lawmakers have not gotten back to us. We've reached out for years. Nobody's gotten back to us. We really wanted to make sure when we interviewed a lawmaker for this piece, it wasn't just going to be a talking head, just giving them free publicity. We wanted to make sure that if we were actually going to sit there and confront them, that they were going to actually do what they were telling us. And so thankfully, we had Representative Bilirakis and Representative Paulina Luna in there, and they both have sent letters to VA Secretary Collins at this point. So we know it's not changed yet, but at least we do know that we are, that local journalism still matters, and we are seeing some results from this documentary.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that this is a perfect case study in why journalism matters. You're, giving voice to veterans with IBM, and it is a rare disease. So it's absolutely critical what you've done and what you continue to do. Jen, do you mind telling us a little bit about the story that you posted today?
Today's story was an update with that letter from Representative Paulina Luna that just went out on Friday that we just got our hands on. So she had asked some very vital questions to Secretary Collins, which we all asked to. Rebecca is the one dealing directly with the VA Secretary, asking about the number of denials, the number of claims. We've never gotten that answer. So she actually asked that and says that she looks forward to a response by next week. So we'll see, we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. So we mentioned that in our piece today, and then we focus on the panel that a few of you guys spoke at last week, and then of course Rich's time on Capitol Hill last week. Because like Rebecca said, we can only do so much. We can show the problem and the solution, and then it's just up to the community getting that word out and sending the message about why it's so important to get IBM marked as presumptive for the VA. So that's what we're updating with today.
And if there are veterans in the audience or watching this replay on YouTube who have not already filled out the screener survey to share their story, that remains open, right? So that we could consider additional interviews at additional stations across the country, perhaps.
I do thank Alicia so much, because when I did interview her, she put it out perfectly exactly what needs to change. So it made it a lot easier for me to go back and understand the codes, the diagnostic codes. It's not super easy right away when you're not used to how the VA system works. So thank you, Alicia.
Absolutely. And one other point that I'd like to make is I wonder how many veterans fall through the cracks, because my husband would not fight this cause. So I had to be the one that was going to we're lucky in St. Pete to have a regional office. I was the one going there all the time. But I do often wonder how many, with this illness, it's so debilitating, how many just don't have the fight in them to get appeal after appeal and to produce all the documentation that's required. So that's just a thought. And I thank you so much for everything you've done to help us with Myositis Awareness Month.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Big virtual round of applause for Jennifer Titus and Libby Hendren from 10 Tampa Bay News. And don't go anywhere, because we're about to bring up on the screen the other veterans, movie stars, who shared their stories in the other markets, starting with, of course, Jim Cressman, who also is the leader of TMA's Military Veterans with Myositis Affinity Group. So Jim, please tell us about your experience with Jen being interviewed in Colorado and going on 9 News.
Jennifer was absolutely wonderful. She made a flight from Florida to Denver, and then from Denver drove the 4 hours over the mountains to Western Colorado to sit down with me and interview me and listen to my story. The experience was pretty overwhelming to me because it meant so much. I cannot put into words the thanks and the heartfelt gratitude from every veteran involved in this, that for everything that Jennifer and all of the other reporters have done for us. Many years ago, I started this letter writing campaign to write to all of the representatives and the senators, the lawmakers. I wrote to every single member of the House Committee on Veterans Affairs, the Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs. I've got them listed. I have more than 110 letters that I mailed on from me as well as on behalf of other veterans. And as you see in the video, I was unsuccessful in getting any response of any kind. Then Jennifer enters the picture, and everything changed. This is what we have been trying to accomplish for all of these years. And Jennifer is the one, along with all of the other reporters, that have been able to get the ears and the audience of these legislators. I can only imagine what lies ahead for us because of her efforts. It is something that we have tried every angle. I didn't know how many different ways we could get our message out to people. As you stated earlier, the very first little documentary that we did, it was an idea that I had that I was going to record each individual veteran and segmented from a Zoom meeting and compile it and put it online. And then Hill and Ponton told me, don't do that. We've got a full production facility in the house, and they did a tremendous job for us. And it is something that has it took a little time, but it finally got recognized by some people who could make a change for us. And that change is going to be something that we have fought for a decade in trying to get this story out and get the change. My dream was to get Title 38 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Section 3.318 changed. That, if we can get that done and get it modified to include inclusion body myositis, I will consider this a grand slam. And it is with as I said, with heartfelt thanks and gratitude for everything that the reporting team and the producers, the reporters, everybody has done for us. I'm excited about what might happen. I'm excited about the efforts that have been contributed here for us. They're serving us, and that's why we served our country, and now we have a group of very dedicated people that are serving us, and it is more meaningful than I can ever express. Jennifer, thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. We cannot say it often enough. And Jim, thanks to you as well for your unrelenting, fully committed leadership. And Alicia commented about the veterans who may be slipping through the cracks. And here's the thing. If they find TMA's military veterans with myositis affinity group, they will find you and your co-leaders and all of the veterans who gather on the second Saturday of each month, and they will not have to go it alone because you will help them. I know that you personally have helped review, prepare, refile, support one another through appeals, dozens, many dozens. So thank you, Jen. We do very much appreciate everything you do to facilitate that amazing community of military veterans with myositis.
It's a labor of love, and thank you for doing everything that you're doing.
Well, what I'm doing right now is calling on folks who may want to speak. If they'd like to, it's hard to follow Jim Cressman, but if Jim Sudds would like to try, we do have one co-leader of the group that has not weighed in yet on this awesome documentary.
First of all, I want to say I'm a big fan of Rod Stewart, and his song was Every Picture Tells a Story. And that's what I think Libby and everybody has done on the TV network, because you guys have gotten the visual concept of IBM out to people that don't know what it does or could not pronounce IBM or inclusion body myositis. But the biggest reward that I've received so far out of all of your work is sitting right up there with Lori and Greg when Greg got his 100% disability. Without you guys, Greg and Lori would still be waiting in line at the grocery store, even though they're in the fast checkout, but they're still waiting. But you guys have carried the ball across. And it's always about 6 degrees of separation. I don't know if Ciara's still on here, but when I talked to Ciara down in Florida down there, her dad was at Fort Stewart, Georgia, the fort that I ran into a lot of my toxins. So, but thank you very much all again. Keep the apostolistic work going out there. Keep spreading the word that what IBM is, and we appreciate everything you guys do. Thank you.
Thank you, Suds, and thanks again. So we have all 4 of the co-leaders of TMA's Military Veterans with Myositis Affinity Group, Jim Kressman, Jim Sudzik, Augie DeAugustinis, and Larry Lesher. Thank you for everything you have poured into that group over the last 4 or 5 years. And Greg and Lori, would you like to share? You've had, I believe, 3 stories at KGW News in Portland there. So I know there's many Oregonians who have heard the word myositis this Myositis Awareness Month.
It's been absolutely incredible. Never in a million years would we have thought that this would have ever happened in Greg's lifetime. He was diagnosed clear back in 2008, and his disease progressed fairly quickly. And, you know, we applied a couple of times. People have heard our story. We applied a couple of times a long time ago, but you feel very alone in this process. And we gave up. We just thought there's just no way in Greg's lifetime that anything would happen that would enable him to get his benefits that we felt he deserved. But we also just didn't have that support. I'm telling you what, this military myositis group has changed our lives. This documentary and the news people, the media, has changed our lives. We finally made the decision to go ahead and reapply. We had so much support from the other people in the group. We've made friends with other people in the group that have supported us in a way that we've never been supported before. And I mean, it was just an absolutely incredible timing of events where we filed. We got interviewed by Kyle Iboshi. I think that our experience was similar to other people. We live in Southern Oregon, right on the California border, and he's from Portland. And so he had to travel down, you know, over the river and through the woods down to our area. We're a little bit less populated area here where we are. And came into our home and interviewed us. And we had just a wonderful experience with him. And you know, even at the time when this started, when we were interviewed, we had no idea that this would blow up. And like one video that Greg's in, I think it has like 11,000 views or something. So you touched on, and that's just one video, there's many. You touched a little bit about the power of the media and how, you know, it really can make a difference in people's lives. And he ended up getting denied on April 24th. 6 days later, we get a call from the VA, and it specifically said, you know, that they turned around their decision. It was overturned. They granted him full benefits. And yeah, one thing, what he was saying is they based it on the news coverage. They specifically stated in a note that this was due to the high profile nature of his case and the media coverage involved. That's what got them to take a look at it again. And somebody else took a look at it and actually reviewed the things that had really, I think, been completely overlooked. And the VA actually made some admissions of, you know, that they had not gone through everything like they should have and not, you know, taken a look at his actual physical condition. And so, or files, he said that they had not taken a look at the files that had been submitted by Hill and Ponton. One other thing that Alicia had said that I wanted to touch on just real quickly is she talked about people falling through the cracks. We would have fallen through the cracks had it not been for the military myositis group, the people we've met there, and then also the media, the news coverage that we've gotten, because we have gotten so much support. Greg couldn't have done this on his own. Physically, he can't do it on his own. He can't speak for himself. He can't control a phone or use a computer. He can't make phone calls by himself. All of it requires support. And me, I felt like I was putting all my effort into taking care of him and not being able to put the effort into filing and everything that you go through when you're having to do that. Just one other quick thing. At the time when we got denied, before we were approved in that few days, we had contacted 3 of our senators here in Oregon, Jeff Merkley's office, Cliff Bence's office, and Ron Wyden's office. And I just have to tell you that we had conversation and contact with all 3 of their offices and letters that were written by all 3 of them, and congressional inquiries too. So I really feel like we got good support that way.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing, Lori and Greg. It's great to see you today, and so great that the agency came to the right determination. I do think there's an efficiency argument to be made here, right? Many times we see veterans with IBM eventually, many years, decades later, receive the full disability benefits. So why not shortcut that, save the government a lot of time and resources, and provide them the benefits that they have earned earlier in the process? So we're trying to advance a lot of persuasive arguments, which you'll hear about shortly from Rich. But I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, because next we're going to hear from Tierney and his wife about their feature on CBS 8 in San Diego, California. So we're keeping it on the West Coast. Tierney, tell us about your experience on the news.
It was pretty surreal. I'm relatively new to the IBM game, not really as symptomatic as my peers, but I'm definitely on that curve. I was telling Ciara the other day, I'm probably one of the luckiest unlucky people that I have this disease, but I'm still kind of relatively mobile. Just a lot of weird things going on. I had actually have service connection for unknown autoimmune disease, which was luckily able to get before found out I had IBM. In fact, like the day after that CNP exam was when first got the antibodies results, and then kind of went from there with all the testing. But it was never in a million years that I think something like IBM would have the impact and be out there that it does. I mean, I have to tell all my family and friends, just go through the explain now. This is what it is. This is what we're fighting for. I do think that this is the first step of many. With the VA presumption status is great. Unfortunately, with my experience, even with that service connection, I still have had numerous issues just trying to get any kind of recognition from the VA or any kind of treatment. So I think we still have a long way to go. And it's important that we just kind of keep going, keep fighting, no matter how much we want to kind of give up. I probably would have fallen through the cracks too. I came dangerously close to doing something that unfortunately affects a lot of vets just because of the experience. And I'm really glad I'm here to take part in this with everyone.
Tierney, we are so glad that you're here too. And you've given us the perfect segue to the next portion. And we are going to wrap up soon, but hopefully y'all can all hang with us just a little bit longer. We'd like to bring on Rich DeAugustinis, who is, first of all, Augie's son, and second of all, the current chair of TMA's board of directors. And Rich will share with us about some of the next steps. Exactly as Tierney said, the journey continues, and we fight onward. So Rich, are you there? Can you unmute?
I am. Hopefully y'all can hear me okay. Please let me know if not. As Rebecca mentioned earlier, they can report the news. They can help shine the light on what's happening. And as many have referenced already in the last hour or so, there's news to share. And we're deeply, deeply thankful. Let me reiterate this again to all of the reporters that have been connected and involved in the producers across these cities and stations. Thank you so much for giving voice to the journey and the challenge that veterans with IBM have faced. What I'd like to speak to is the advocacy part, to pick up where the line they can't cross, as Rebecca referenced, and the line that we need to focus on as a community, that we already are and are seeing some success with, and that we need to accelerate. In recent weeks, as a result of this great reporting, as a result of these amazing veterans being willing to share their story and talk through their journey and their challenges with the VA, we're getting attention. We're getting good attention from elected officials. And as you can see on the screen here, we're very grateful to Representative Gus Bilirakis from the 12th District of Florida. He immediately stepped up to support Vets with IBM after being contacted by Channel 10, Tampa Bay News. So thank you to Jennifer Titus and the team there. Representative Bilirakis is one of the co-chairs of the Rare Disease Caucus in the House. There's also one in the Senate. And he's a very fierce champion for rare disease, for veterans, and now for TMA's community and what we're trying to accomplish. He immediately wrote a letter, which we've already referenced in this call, to the Secretary of the VA, Doug Collins. And while I'll let you read the letter, we're posting it on our website. You can have a look at that in detail later. The bottom line is he is very direct in his ask to Secretary Collins to effectively say that the science is there, the facts are there, and that the Secretary should move forward and go ahead and make IBM presumptive. That is our posture right now. We respect and support the NASM study that is underway. We're obviously participating in that, but we very much believe that the VA can go ahead and make the choice and make this policy today. They have the right to do so, and we're asking them to do so, and we'll continue to ask them to do so. Representative Bilirakis, actually, when he heard that we were doing this today, said he'd like to prepare a special video to share. So Paula, could we run that real quick?
Yep, and then it'll be linked on TMA's website and social media. So we'll share a directory of links afterwards.
Let me begin by thanking each of you, the advocates, the families, the caregivers, and our veterans, our true American heroes, for your persistence in bringing attention to inclusion body myositis. Your voices matter. You're being heard. I want to thank the media at Channel 10 also in my area, in the Tampa Bay area, for giving the recognition to this particular disease and bringing it to my attention. So we're going to go to work for you. As chair of the Rare Disease Caucus, I've made it a priority to ensure that Americans living with rare diseases are not overlooked by our healthcare and benefits systems, especially those who have served our nation in uniform. I've also been a leading voice in the fight to ensure increased NIH funding, as it holds the promise for developing a better understanding of disease causes and hope for the development of better treatments and cures. Today, I want to speak directly about the urgent need to address the inequity facing veterans diagnosed with SIBM. Again, sporadic inclusion body myositis is a progressive, incurable neuromuscular disease. It causes irreversible muscle weakness, loss of mobility, and fine, again, motor function, unfortunately. Loss of that motor function, difficulty swallowing, and in advanced stages, respiratory failure. There is currently no cure and no truly effective treatment to stop its progression, unfortunately. In many ways, as IBM mirrors ALS, another devastating disease that shares similar clinical features, progression patterns, and outcomes, because of that severity and the strong association with military service, ALS is already recognized by the Department of Veterans Affairs as a presumptive service-connected condition. But SIBM is not. We have to do something about that, folks. That distinction has real consequences, unfortunately. Veterans with ALS rightfully receive timely access to benefits through a presumptive pathway. Veterans with SIBM, despite facing a similarly devastating diagnosis, must navigate a lengthy, burdensome, and often inconsistent individualized claims process just to establish service connection. That disparity is difficult to justify when the clinical realities are so comparable. According to July 2025 VA Freedom of Information Act response, approximately 6,771 veterans are currently receiving care for SIBM through the VA healthcare system, and diagnoses have increased by more than 200% since 2010. We are also learning more each year about potential links between military service, environmental exposures, and the neurodegenerative disease. Experts at leading institutions, including Dr. Thomas Lloyd at Johns Hopkins University and Dr. Todd Cohen at the University of North Carolina, have pointed to meaningful overlap in the biological mechanisms and exposure risks associated with ALS and SIBM. While more research is ongoing, the concern is real and should be taken seriously. That's why I recently wrote to the Secretary of Veterans Affairs urging inclusion of SIBM as a presumptive service connection. Again, it's a condition that should be included. And why I'm leading a dear colleague letter to garner bipartisan support from my colleagues on this important issue. This is not about bypassing science or policy safeguards. It's about ensuring fairness where the evidence, the clinical realities, and the lived experiences of veterans all point to a clear direction. We should not force veterans with a devastating, progressive neurological disease to fight, and again, their spouses as well, and family members who are helping veterans. They should not have to fight an additional battle for access to the care and benefits they have earned. We have precedent. We have framework in place for diseases like ALS, and we had a hearing today. Actually, it was a markup on a couple ALS bills, and I participated, but we also included similar degenerative diseases, and so this probably more than likely would include SIBM for more research and what have you. So, and we have authority within the department to act when conditions warrant, and they definitely warrant in this case. Why I strongly support continued research, including congressional efforts such as the Healthy Brains Act and ongoing National Academics of Sciences, the reviews. We cannot ask veterans currently suffering from SIBM to simply wait for future findings while their condition progresses again today. We've got to act on this as soon as possible, folks. They deserve, our veterans deserve the recognition. They deserve timely access to these benefits. And they deserve the same presumption of service connection that reflects the seriousness of this illness. As chair of the Rare Disease Caucus, I will continue working with my colleagues, with VA, and with all of you to advance solutions that bring fairness, dignity, and urgency to this particular issue. Thank you for your advocacy. It really does make a difference. Thank you for your partnership, and most importantly, thank you for standing up to, again, for, with, alongside our veterans, our true American heroes. We appreciate you so very much. We appreciate the families of veterans as well and their caregivers.
I met with Representative Bilirakis' chief of staff. It was my last meeting last Wednesday on the Hill. And he has agreed to lead what's called a DC or a Dear Colleague letter in the House of Representatives, and will probably help us get that set up in the Senate as well. Simply put, we're working with them to take the letter that he's already sent and then to shape that into something that's even a little bit stronger, and to get a few other representatives on board on both the Republican and the Democratic side, so it's perceived as bipartisan, and it is, and to get that going in the coming weeks. So we're very, very thankful to Representative Bilirakis for being willing to lead on that. And we are going to step up. I'm personally going to step up. That's what my day last Wednesday in part was about. And I'm already reaching out to a number of different offices on the Hill, in the House, in the Senate, both in the Georgia delegation that I know here in my home state and beyond, to begin to get some of those folks on board. The aim here in the long term, by the way, is to take that Dear Colleague letter when we have hopefully maybe 20 or 25 representatives and 10, 15, 20 senators on it, and then turn around at that point and share it and make a more formal request of Secretary Collins to make IBM presumptive at that point. Be much, much harder to say no when you've got 30 or 40 members of Congress saying this is the right thing to do. So two of those folks that have already basically voiced their support for what we're trying to accomplish, both in the Diagnosis Denied documentary, which if you haven't watched it, I encourage you to watch the whole thing, but also vis-a-vis letters that have been sent to the Veterans Administration. Representative Anna Paulina Luna of Florida and Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon. And I do know, by the way, I should also mention Representative Rich McCormick, who I spoke to personally a number of weeks ago, has been in direct contact with both the VA secretary and his senior staff on this issue as well, and is very much an advocate for our cause. So please know that I personally will continue to make this a priority in the weeks and months ahead. This is important to TMA in our community. And there will be an opportunity in the coming weeks and months. You'll hear more about this once we get that Dear Colleague letter up and going. We're going to look to not only all of you that are on this call, but the many thousands in the TMA community to reach out to their representatives and senators to encourage them to come on board to support this Dear Colleague letter. When they do, I'm just telling you, things will begin to happen faster. And then finally, as you can go on to the next slide there, Paula, when you have a second. Another thing that we're doing in this space of advocacy, and this, trust me, this is connected, is we have a pending House resolution in the House of Representatives, HRes 1195, designating May as Myositis Awareness Month. We encourage you, there's been emails sent out about this in recent weeks. Over time, we hope to get more representatives to come on as co-sponsors of this and ultimately get it to the floor for a vote, and a positive vote, which would basically designate May as Myositis Awareness Month in perpetuity, not just for 2026. So this is another way that you can participate in driving myositis awareness, but more importantly, achieving specific policy outcomes that benefit our community. You're going to be hearing a lot more about that from TMA and from me in the months and years ahead. So stay tuned on that. So thank you very much. Please know that we're pressing forward on this on your behalf, and you have my solemn commitment. I will do everything I can to make it happen. Thanks, Paula.
Thank you, Rich. And thanks to everyone for continuing to engage with your elected officials. They do want to hear from you. And the more they hear from you, the more they will remember you and your stories. And the more you can help TMA advance these causes. Now, we are going to play back Diagnosis Denied, the investigative news documentary done by the news stations all over the country that we have been learning about today. Many of you have probably already watched it, But have you watched it alongside the veterans with IBM and their care partners who were featured in it? No. So let's all do that, and then we will wrap up with some closing remarks.
In foreign and not so foreign lands they served.
That's the airplane that's hanging over my wings there.
Served a country they loved.
I look back on those years as probably some of the most rewarding years.
Their symptoms developed slowly.
I went to shoot, I couldn't pull the trigger. So I'm like, there's something going on.
Methodically.
He would just fall out of the blue.
A mystery until it wasn't.
I squatted down and I couldn't get up, and I just collapsed.
I've come to grips with it. It's not easy.
For months, a team of reporters in cities across the country listened, recorded, and documented.
I see a good-looking guy right here.
A story, not just of their fight against a rare disease,
God bless us all, everybody.
but of their fight to have the U.S. government recognize the role played by their service.
A lot of exposures to degreasers and jet fuel.
We need the VA to see what this disease is and what it's done to the veterans.
Years of denials.
He told me exactly what would happen. He says, we'll file this claim. It's going to be denied.
And emails unreturned.
Not one response.
Now a renewed effort.
They've been fighting for years to get somebody to listen to them. Is that something that you are going to do?
To finally acknowledge a diagnosis denied.
This is a picture from a long time ago. Let me see where Greg is. Right here.
For 21 years, Greg Rathburn served his country.
Back in that active duty time.
The photos remember what his body has forgotten.
Look at me. Live my life for a day. God bless us all, everybody.
The 62-year-old suffers from a rare muscle disease called inclusion body myositis, or IBM, a disease that takes and never stops.
Now he's not even strong enough to breathe on his own. He has no muscle that can move his arms or legs or anything.
His wife Lori does what Greg no longer can.
So we need to scoot him back several times a day.
Thanks.
Greg spent his career in the Air Force and later the Air National Guard.
Top gun right here, see? Okay, now I think Greg's at the top. Yeah, Greg's right here.
Working on some of the most advanced aircraft ever built. Then, in 2008, something changed. He felt weak and shaky.
He would feel like if a person felt if they were on a motorcycle and had been riding a motorcycle all day, just kind of vibrating, like a vibrating sensation.
At age 44, doctors diagnosed him with IBM.
So we kind of thought, yeah, it's a muscle wasting disease, but we'll get by, it's fine.
IBM breaks down muscle tissue over time, slowly robbing people of their strength until they can no longer function on their own. What causes it is a mystery. There is no cure.
It starts off with weakness in the hands, especially in the grip, and weakness in the upper legs.
Dr. Thomas Lloyd, chair of neurology at Baylor College of Medicine, says IBM often doesn't show up until years after service, sometimes decades later.
So it's extremely slowly progressive, and that leads to a delay in diagnosis.
Greg applied for service-connected disability in 2009, hoping for full benefits from the Veterans Administration. But the VA said no.
I fully, wholeheartedly believe that his exposures during the military service is what caused this disease.
There's no family history, no genetic markers. Greg and his wife were left wondering, looking back at the years he spent as an avionics technician, the harsh chemicals that came with the job, and his work on the SR-71 Blackbird, an aircraft notorious for leaking jet fuel. Whether that exposure triggered IBM is a question researchers are still trying to answer.
But there was no training as far as the realization that these things can hurt you. Just just want to talk about.
6 years later, Greg tried again, this time with a letter of support from a neurologist. The VA's answer was in black and white. Once again, denied, because the condition neither occurred in nor was caused by service.
I had to put my effort and he had to put his effort into his care and just getting through each day, and we just couldn't put the effort into it anymore, so we gave up.
There was a bigger battle in front of them, the financial reality. Service-connected benefits would have meant more support from the VA, help with medical equipment, travel, and the cost of modifying their home.
If he was 100% service connected, I don't know how much it is, but I know that they will help with a lot more modifications and things. Yeah. So we paid out of pocket for all of this.
Lori has put her life on hold. She retired early to take care of Greg. It's a job that doesn't know hours or days off.
You scratch my ear.
This one?
Oh, thank you.
Little things like that all day long. Scratch this, move my arm.
For 21 years, Greg Rathburn served his country. The disease has taken almost everything. And what's happening to Greg is showing up in veterans across the country.
Angela. All right, you want to get me up?
You ready?
Yep. One ready. Beam me up, Scotty.
Dennis McKinney's mornings now look like this.
It just started to get worse and worse and worse. So, and now it's beyond. I have an aide dress me, put me on the toilet, shower me. And if you don't think that's embarrassing, you know, it is.
At 82 years old, this Army veteran,
I was in Germany then.
like Greg,
So we need to scoot him back several times a day.
relies on others for nearly everything.
We gotta go that way.
Depending on the study and how you do the math, advocates believe the number of veterans diagnosed with IBM may be anywhere from 6 to 19 times higher than the general population. That's a wide range. The problem, nobody formally tracks IBM diagnoses.
How many of you guys are veterans that have been diagnosed with IBM?
Yes.
At this monthly meeting, veterans from across the country share more than just the same diagnosis.
How many that have been diagnosed with IBM have been denied disability benefits from the VA?
At one time or another, yeah, we all have.
Among them,
good morning, everyone.
Dan Lowther's wife, Alicia.
He was in the service for 4 years. I think back to 2017, which is 9 years ago, and when Dan was diagnosed, and he was walking. He was walking slowly and with the use of a cane, but he was walking then. August of this past year, he could no longer stand at all. This will rotate him side to side continuously.
Dan is too sick to speak with us.
It's ALS in slow motion is what it is.
Dr. Lloyd says IBM and ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, are very similar.
This molecular change that we see in the muscle in IBM is exactly the same molecular change that's seen in ALS.
But despite the severity of the disease, veterans say they are hitting a wall.
I was denied.
That's because the VA does not recognize IBM as a service-connected condition. There's no specific diagnostic code. Why does that matter? Because without it, there's no disability benefits questionnaire, and that means veterans are evaluated off other illnesses.
That's the airplane that's hanging over my wings there.
For retired Navy pilot William DeAugustinis, it was arthritis.
I was there for over 3 hours. She went through this whole exam for arthritis.
And none of it really related to your needs.
Not at all.
Others say their disability has been based off things like fibromyalgia and, yes, even ALS.
And the neurologist would mark no. And he noted at the front that Dan has inclusion body myositis, but because of the wording attributable to ALS, everything was marked no.
The fix, veterans believe, is simple. So do attorneys fighting on their behalf.
If VA simply recognizes the disease, finds ways to get it rated and evaluated correctly, and looks seriously at adding as a presumptive just like ALS, we don't have to wait any longer. It's a simple policy fix.
Until that happens,
I'm gonna go that way now.
those who fought for our country are left fighting a system that doesn't believe it caused the disease in their own bodies.
Can we get a fix for this so that the younger guys are not going to have to suffer through this?
In one of the most western parts of western Colorado, a town reawakens daily, each time re-inspiring the awe of at least one.
We recognize how lucky we really are.
At least one of its 13,000 residents.
We love the location.
And yet luck seldom feels more fickle.
I can only imagine how tremendous it is for able-bodied people.
Than it does right now.
29 individual disabilities.
Many years into a diagnosis that's slowly taken away the ability to enjoy what this part of the state has to offer.
There's optimism, there's pessimism, and then there's realism. And I am a realist.
Jim Cressman's candor is the result of a disease he knows will almost certainly take his life.
I can't get up and walk across the room anymore. I can't take 2 steps without falling.
If the national fight to have IBM recognized has a leader, it's Jim, a Vietnam veteran who serviced planes in Thailand for the U.S. Air Force.
Even today, I look back on those years as probably some of the most rewarding years of my life.
From his modified home,
there are no steps.
His weakened body has authored letter after letter, each asking for help in getting the Veterans Benefits Administration to establish a presumptive link between IBM and military service.
I have called state representatives here, senators. I have helped other veterans send letters to their senators and representatives. The only conclusion that I can come up with is they have made a choice, and that choice is they have chosen not to help the veterans.
And yet he believes it's still a story he's meant to tell. He first applied for benefits due to IBM in 2015. I was exposed to Agent Orange, he wrote. Agent Orange may be linked to the disease.
It was denied almost immediately.
Every single veteran that comes through at the initial level get denied, and that means all of them have to fight this case on appeal.
It was attorney Carrie Baker who took on Cressman's claim. Baker says a big problem with IBM is that so few know it exists.
You know, I run into VA employees probably every week about these cases. They've never heard of this disease.
Yet the VA's own records indicate, while rare, more than 2,000 veterans have it.
And right now it looks like, without a doubt, that military service plays a role in these veterans getting this disease.
Baker says he's now winning cases, securing successful appeals, but it's taking time.
And forgive me, I have trouble picking these things up because my fingers don't work.
Time many of those with IBM simply do not have.
We know that there's no cure, there is no treatment for this disease. It is progressive. We understand this.
9 years after Jim Cressman asked, he finally won full benefits, as bittersweet a victory as this veteran has ever received.
I will give you every penny if I could have my legs back. I just can't do those things any longer, and you have to accept it. That's what this disease does to you.
Terry Baker, good morning to you, sir.
It's why Jim is now their voice. Often you'll find him leading calls with other veterans who also have IBM, talking strategy. When he writes letters these days trying to raise awareness, he makes sure to include many of their signatures. He'll also include the studies and the letters from doctors showing a likely link between environmental exposures received during active military service and IBM.
Why have you chosen not to help them? And I don't get a response.
He has grown used.
Not one response. Not one response.
Used to being ignored by leaders, by legislators, he's tired, but not yet deterred.
It has been a passion of mine now for many, many years. I promised this group of veterans that I'm not going to stop. As I explained, I've got my disability benefits. I have my service connection. But I had to wait 9 years, finally had to hire an attorney to prove my case.
From his home in Fruita, Colorado, one of the leaders of this movement says it's time for their luck to change.
What does it take? What does it take to get the attention, to get a response from a letter that we've asked repeatedly for help for years and years and years to the same people, and nothing has been done?
For this interview, William Augie DeAugustinis didn't need to pull up a chair. He was already in one.
I quickly started having problems with my legs, just a straight line progression to a life in a wheelchair.
But as you've seen, it isn't a straight line to disability benefits. For Augie, the process took 11 years. He says, like ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, it should have been automatic.
My flying buddy in the Navy that I was on active duty with up in Iceland came down with ALS. And I was with him through that whole process. They provided him with everything he needed.
Same military service, same exposures.
Our offices were inside of a hangar, a lot of exposures to solvents and degreasers and jet fuel. And sometimes I went on a 10-hour mission with my sleeve soaked in de-icing fluid.
But different diagnosis. A diagnosis that can make a big difference in benefits.
This molecular change that we see in the muscle in IBM is exactly the same molecular change that's seen in ALS. I feel strongly that our patients with IBM who are veterans really deserve those same benefits as ALS patients.
Dr. Thomas Lloyd told the VA that directly, writing this letter to the appeals board in 2022 as several veterans, including Augie, fought for benefits. UNC's Department of Neurology did the same.
Complex diseases like IBM and ALS, clearly have an environmental trigger.
While researchers are still looking at how those toxins might be connected, the veterans law judge that finally approved Augie's claim believed that medical testimony, writing electromagnetic and solar radiation along with de-icing toxins could be a risk factor.
We have seen at least 2 IBM cases get approved on initial submission. That is a very hopeful sign for us. But the process definitely needs to be streamlined.
The VA says it made ALS presumptive service-connected because veterans were 1.5 times more likely to develop ALS than the general population. By that standard, Carrie Baker, who works at the law firm that helped Augie defend his case, says IBM should be treated the same.
These numbers blow it out of the water.
Baker is again referring to studies that show the rate of veterans diagnosed with IBM may be at least 6 times higher. Whatever led to their illness, those living with IBM say they need the VA's help to manage the disease.
My hands don't work all that well anymore.
From wheelchairs,
this one they're going to do 36 inches,
widened walkways, to toilets, and even special lifts. Augie believes giving IBM a diagnostic code, creating a disability benefits questionnaire to properly assess veterans, and making the condition presumptive will spark more research, perhaps leading one day to a cure.
I've come to grips with it. It's not easy.
But getting benefits for IBM through the VA, he says, should be.
We had plans for when I retired, and this wasn't part of it. I actually like to go through these pictures quite often.
Larry Lesher.
What a trip it's been.
Never imagined
It has been a real trip.
retirement would become a two-front battle.
It brings back good memories as well as some difficult times that I've had.
Not only against a rare debilitating disease known as IBM,
Pictures of when I was in the service.
but for recognition from the VA that it's service-related.
I was 58, probably when I realized that there was something wrong. We need the VA to see exactly what this disease is and what it's done to the veterans.
Now 82,
I don't want to dwell on things that I no longer can do.
this Air Force veteran who served as a military cryptologist says he was trained to dispose of classified materials using chemical-based incendiary devices, something he now believes may be connected to his illness.
I absolutely believe it was service-connected. Absolutely.
It took him nearly 20 years to get the VA to come to that same conclusion.
I can't even tell you the hours that he put in. I'm not kidding you. I would have given up way long ago because the VA it's like delay.
A fight that depleted much of their life savings retrofitting their house as his health declined.
I didn't want anybody else to have to go through what we did. It took me 17 and a half years.
And those benefits are a game changer. I mean, we have so many things from the VA we couldn't possibly have afforded. So they provide a lot of benefit if you can get it as presumptive.
That is why Larry is still in this fight, so other veterans who have selflessly served our country do not have to wait years for help they so desperately need.
Our goal, there's 5 of us that are really pushing to get the VA to understand that it should be a presumptive disease.
We took veterans' concerns and stories
The younger guys are not going to have to suffer through this.
to lawmakers who are now vowing to take action.
I guarantee if I can't get it done in like the next 5 months, then we're really just not in good shape. But I think that we'll be able to get something done.
Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, a veteran herself, says the system needs to change.
The VA system and the way that their ratings are designed, it is to force denial. And then you have to, again, fight for it, and that's not how it's supposed to be operating.
Right after we interviewed her, she called the White House congressional liaison.
So I think what it's actually going to take is actually getting a meeting with the new VA secretary and then also flagging it for the president. And I think once that happens, I think it'll be an automatic thing, because if we can't get it done through Congress, we'll just ask the president to do it via executive order, and I think that this would be something that he'd be inclined to do.
Congressman Gus Bilirakis, co-chair of the Rare Disease Caucus, says he was not aware of IBM.
You brought it to our attention, and I appreciate that very much.
But now says he's committed to pushing for answers and potential presumptive status.
Veterans are my top priority. I think we can get it done.
We uncovered an internal presentation created in February to answer questions we kept asking lawmakers about the VA's response to IBM. The National Institutes of Health is looking at possible links between toxic exposures and military service. The VA report acknowledges it has contracted with the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine to review certain neurodegenerative diseases, including IBM, and their potential relationship to military environmental exposures.
Have an exact prescribed way of going about the study in a rare disease and the association with the military.
But Representative Rich McCormick acknowledges that study isn't expected to be completed until July 2027. After we pressed for answers, McCormick, a Marine veteran, says he personally spoke with Secretary Doug Collins about the VA's efforts to better understand IBM. And while the wait continues, McCormick believes the disease will ultimately be recognized as service-connected.
In the meantime, of course, they're looking at each case. They're trying to accelerate those cases.
We've asked the VA for the data to see how many veterans have had their cases approved without having to go through a lengthy appeals process. They have yet to provide it.
Lifts me out of the wheelchair. It carries me into the bathroom.
Larry, who is grateful for the benefits he now receives through the VA, is committed to seeing this fight to the end to make sure every veteran who comes after him and those still fighting denied claims can get the same life-changing support he finally did.
We signed on the dotted line. We gave our country everything we had to give them. It's time that they look at what they've done and what they have and come back to us and help us.
Thank you so much. Hopefully you all can still hear me. I really think the opening few minutes of that documentary is so powerful. The way they scroll through the diagnoses, we see that there is no diagnostic code for IBM at the VA. And then starting with the Rathburn story, bringing in Dennis, the rest of the stories are just that good. I hope you will all watch or rewatch the Diagnosis Denied documentary this evening. We will send out an email with all of the links to the various things that we have discussed and all of the ways that you can help TMA, Hill and Ponton, 10 Tampa Bay News, 11 Alive Atlanta, First Coast News Jacksonville, 9 News Denver, CBS 8 San Diego, and KGW News Portland. Stand by our veterans with inclusion body myositis. Thank you all so much for joining us for today's community screening and conversation with the reporters and producers and veterans and advocates who contributed to this investigative news documentary. It was a joy to be with you all during Myositis Awareness Month. Let's do one final big round of applause. Thank you so much, Rebecca, Ciara, Jen, Libby, all of your colleagues. Please send all of our appreciation and hugs onward. We really truly appreciate it. And maybe we can just get a group picture really quick for those who are willing to go on video. And that's another thing that we can do to keep the momentum going. You know, it'll give us another image to put on our social media. Okay, so I'm going to take a few pictures. I'll have to click around to get all the folks. So just keep smiling. Jim Cressman, you look very handsome. You're so still, perfectly positioned against the Military Veterans with Myositis logo there. Okay, everybody, 1, 2, 3. We're gonna do one more. 1, 2, whoops, hang on, I'm too slow. 1, 2, 3. Okay, got it. Thank you all for joining.